today the focus of the sessions will be on enabling preventing weight gain, and also we'll be talking to Stuart Renshaw from Wisc, who'll be able to talk through his package later in the day, which has got some really exciting opportunities there. So I will have to leave you. I'm terribly sorry. The calls of an assistant director in public health are many today. So I'll leave you in Vasuda, Francis and Stuart's capable hands. Thank you all for joining, and I hope to see you next time.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you. Hi all, I'm one of the GP registrars. My name is Vasudha and I'm organizing this webinar series on diet, nutrition and health. Thank you for joining us today on today's web series. So we have got Dr. Francis Messon and Stuart Renshaw today as speakers. Yeah. Just trying to move on to my next slide. Okay. I think I'll just keep the part of the next slide. So the next slide is about basically some housekeeping rules. We would request you to turn off your camera and your microphone, please, for the rest of the session. If you have got any questions, please put them in the chat box, and at the end of each presentations, we'll come back to those questions and answer those questions. And your feedback is really important for us. We have got a survey for the feedback. At the end of the presentation, I will email you the survey. So if you can take a couple of minutes to fill the survey, that would be really good. Thank you. So today's session is divided. I'll just try whether my screen moves. No. So today's session is divided in two parts. So in the first part, Dr. Francis Messon, she's a nutritionist and a PhD in behavioral medicine. She has done very good research around PACE, physical activity. She's going to talk about what is PACE and her research around PACE. In the next part, we have got Stuart Renshaw. He's head of global growth, and he's going to talk about Wisc App and how a Wisc App can be used to promote healthy eating in the community. And he's also going to talk about the Wisc App partnership with the Healthy Birmingham. So now I'll pass over to Francis. Thank you.
Thanks, Vasudha. I'll just share my screen. Okay, hopefully you can see that okay. Yeah, is it full screen? No, hang on, bear with me. A bit slow today. Okay, hopefully that's better. So my name's Francis and I'm pleased to be here to talk to you today about some research that I conducted in relation to weight gain prevention. So it's a little bit linked to how we can help people to eat more healthily, because there are some practical examples of some of the research that I did and the elements that worked and could be taken forward and used on a daily basis. So I'm really pleased to be here. Thank you for the invitation. So I thought before I start, I'll just tell you a little bit about me. So I'm a nutritionist. I've an undergraduate degree in human nutrition, which I obtained at the Manchester Metropolitan University. From then I went on to work in the NHS, where I worked on a community weight management programme. And this was a GP referral. So they were referred by their GPs and attended a 12-week weight management programme with me in the community. And I've always worked in weight management and obesity. I've also worked for an organisation called Counterweight, which is a primary care weight management service. And I've also worked for Weight Watchers, so I've worked for a private organisation where I was head of programme. So I was responsible for developing all parts of the programme materials and ensuring the sort of scientific integrity of the intervention. And then following that, I decided to do a PhD at the University of Birmingham, which I completed a couple of years ago. And officially, it's around behavioural medicine. So I looked at testing and intervention that might prevent weight gain, because we see weight is increasing in the population year on year. But I decided to test it at a really tricky time. So I thought, well, let's give it a go at Christmas time and see if A, anyone will want to even think about preventing weight gain over Christmas, and B, whether anything will actually work. So that's what I'm going to talk to you a bit about today. And I've also worked as a research fellow at the University of Birmingham. I've worked on a number of studies relating to paediatric obesity, as well as food in secondary schools, and some work related to the lockdown of COVID. And currently I work at the Birmingham City Council, where I'm service lead for inequalities. So, preventing weight gain and weight management. I thought I'd just start with a few true or false to see you can test your own knowledge really on the subject. So as I'm talking through the true or false, just have a think. Do you think it's true or false? And then I'll let you know whether it is or not. So the first one is that body weight increases on average annually. So on an annual basis in the population, do you think we see an increase in body weight? Well, that is actually true. So we do. We see that body weight in the population increases year on year. And do we think that it's true that this weight gain is due to a steady and sustained intake in calories? Actually, it is kind of true, but we also know that there are particular periods throughout the year where we see a more rapid increase in weight. So we think that this might now be the average annual weight gain is more down to discrete periods, which are located around holiday occasions, such as Christmas. People on average, thinking about Christmas, consume 4,000 calories on Christmas Day. That one's true, and it's actually thought to be between 4,000 and 6,000 calories on Christmas Day alone. And do we think that people generally lose the weight they've gained after Christmas in the January diet season? That's false. So we know that when we track the weight trajectory, people don't actually fully lose the weight that they've gained, and it persists into the summer months and beyond, which is why we see an average increase in body weight in the population. And true or false, the average weight gain at Christmas is 19 kilos or 3 stone. That's not actually true. It's far less than that. It's thought to be around half a stone up to 7 pounds. So much less than that, fortunately. And a bit of a fun one here. On average, 8 mince pies are eaten per person over the Christmas season. True or false? False. It's supposed to be around 27. So quite a lot of mince pies. Perhaps we're seeing why weight is gained at Christmas. And then finally, weight is gained at Christmas due to the food and drink consumed on Christmas Day. This one's false because it's more due to the Christmas period. So the Christmas period is around 6 to 8 weeks in duration. It's not all down just to one day. So when I started my research, I thought it would be interesting to look at what's happening to weight in different countries. So this is kind of a main piece of research that I used to sort of formulate my hypothesis for my research. And what we've seen from this study was it was looking at the body weight in different countries across different holiday occasions. So they looked at Christmas in Germany, Thanksgiving in the US, and something called Golden Week in Japan, which is a national holiday. And what they found was in each country, participants' weight increased during those holiday occasions. So in line with what the other research suggests. And the weight was reported directly from wireless scales, so it wasn't a self-reported weight, so it was quite a reliable measure of weight. But the other really significant finding was, if you look at the line between December excuse me, and January, you can see that there's an increase in weight across all 3 countries, regardless of whether that's a national holiday or not. So we know that it's highly likely people's weight increases during the Christmas period. And how weight gain occurs, it's supposedly very simple. So it's due to energy balance. So if you consume more calories than you use through exercise, physical activity, or at rest, then you will observe weight gain. However, in reality, we know that it's extremely complex and there are multiple factors involved in weight gain and obesity. So this is the foresight map that I'm sure you'll be familiar with, which was designed to show the complex picture at play of how weight gain occurs and what factors are at play with obesity. So it's highly complex, it's not a simple process. But little's known about weight gain prevention. There's lots done around weight loss and what works in terms of interventions around weight loss, but little is known about weight gain prevention, which is why I decided to have a look at it. So this was the first study done to see if we could prevent weight gain during the Christmas holiday period at the time. So what I'm going to talk about now is my research in particular, but if you'd like to know more detail, then the research is published. So it was published in the BMJ Christmas edition, appropriately, in 2018. So you'll be able to access the paper through the BMJ. It's open access, it's available to all, there's no fee or anything. And as I said, this was part of my PhD. And then the bottom here is a link to a podcast that I did with the BMJ to just talk a little bit more about my research. And there are also a couple of other really good researchers talking about their work on the same episode. So you might find some more information in there if you're interested. So what did I do? I designed a randomized controlled trial and a qualitative study afterwards to test whether the intervention that I developed would prevent weight gain over the Christmas period. So I developed an intervention which had 3 key components. One was self-weighing, one was pace information that Vasuda's referred to, and the other one was some quite simple information around tips for weight management. So I wanted to see if these behavioural components would be able to help people to prevent excessive weight gain over the Christmas period. I used a bit of theory to underpin my intervention. So I used self-regulation theory and habit formation to see if these 2 things, for which there's some evidence around weight management, might help to support that during this very brief period. So I thought that participants, the way that it would work would be they'd prevent weight gain through demonstrating restraint of eating and drinking. So I was interested to see whether restraint was possible during the Christmas period or whether it would be too challenging for people. And I called it the Winter Weight Watch Study. So when I was kind of developing my intervention, I tried to put down what we call a logic model. And sorry, the formatting's gone a little bit strange on this slide. But this was how I hypothesized that my intervention might work. So I've got my 3 core components down the left: self-weighing, the 10 top tips, which are the tips for weight management, and the pace information. And I thought that those 3 things might all work together to help people to form some healthy habits, maybe habits around self-weighing, might increase their activity, but it would mean that they'd restrain their energy intake, restrain the amount of calories that they were consuming, and that would have the outcome of preventing weight gain. So I set this out from the beginning and designed to test this model to see if it would work. So I recruited people through 2016 and 2017. I recruited them in November and December, and I recruited adults aged 18 years and above with a BMI of 20 and above to kind of guard against unhealthy weight practices. Excuse me. Sorry, I've got a bit of a tickle. So I asked them to take part in the study and to contact me if they were interested through the November and December. And then I followed them up in January and February. So I recruited some parents through local schools. So I put a flyer into book bags of children. I recruited them through some large workplaces and through social media, which we use quite a lot. And then I followed them up sort of 6 to 8 weeks later. So it's a very, very brief intervention. I did offer people a financial incentive. So they got just a £10 high street voucher for giving me their follow-up weight. I also excluded anyone who was pregnant or breastfeeding due to the extra requirements on calories. And I aimed to recruit 226 participants, which would give me a certain power to the study. I wanted to detect a 0.75 kilo difference. So this wasn't about weight loss, it was about preventing weight gain. So I wanted people's weight to stay the same. So the intervention itself had those 3 components, which I packaged into a leaflet. And anyone who was allocated to my control just received a really simple healthy living leaflet with no specific advice, because I really wanted to test the intervention. So this was what people received. So it was information about what happens to weight over the Christmas period, a weight chart. So I asked people to record their weight and to weigh themselves regularly. And I suggested that this was ideally daily, but at least twice a week, and to record their weight, taking a note of the changes in their weight. So I really wanted them to think about their weight trajectory, so the pluses and minuses on a regular basis. And inside that leaflet was these 10 top tips, which had been tested previously by some colleagues at UCL, and these were effective in a weight loss trial. So I just adapted them slightly, but it was really simple things that everybody knew about. So healthy snacking, choosing reduced fat options and 5 a day and so on. And then I included this PACE information. So PACE is really a form of labelling, and it's known as physical activity calorie equivalent labelling, which is a bit of a handful, which is why we call it PACE. So essentially, it tells you the amount of exercise required to expend the number of calories in a food or drink. And it tells you in minutes of walking or running. So it's a fairly novel concept, and one that has been tested quite minimally so far. So I thought it would be quite useful to test as this part of this intervention. And there were a few reasons for that. I thought it could be useful for people who maybe consume foods that they don't normally have as part of their daily diet. Maybe they're specific to the Christmas period. So things like mince pies, there was a lack of knowledge and awareness around the number of calories in a mince pie. So I put a series of these tables like this here to highlight the number of calories and then the minutes of activity needed to burn that food off. So this table here on the left is around sort of components of a Christmas dinner. And again, this was an awareness raising piece. I had another table for alcoholic drinks and soft drinks. And I had another table for more kind of snack foods that are consumed at parties and social occasions and so on, because that's a really big consideration at Christmas time. So I worked out the generic PACE equivalent. So I used sort of an average person, because you work it out by weight to get the minutes of walking or running. And it really seemed to quite resonate with people, but I'll come on to that in a minute. So what we had was 311 people took part in the study, and we excluded 39, and we ended up randomizing to the control or the intervention 272 people over the 2 Christmases. So Significantly here is the loss rate, so loss to follow-up. People who dropped out of the study was extremely low. Only 6 people dropped out of the study. We don't know why. Normally you see a far higher dropout rate of any weight management program, but this was really, really low. It may be because of the financial incentive. It may be because it was a really short, brief trial. They're only with us for 6 weeks. It may be some things we put in place around setting a follow-up appointment initially and that kind of thing. It may be lots of reasons, but there's lots of learnings to take from that. So what we found was the intervention worked. So on average, the participants in the intervention group ended the study weighing 0.5 kilo less than those in the control group. So essentially they prevented weight gain. I measured lots and lots of different things to see if there was any impact. So for example, I measured percentage body fat because I wanted to see whether people's weight didn't possibly change, but maybe their percentage body fat was different, but there weren't actually any significant differences. But one thing that was significantly different across the groups was this measure of restraint that I used. So I found that restraint was significantly increased in the intervention group participants compared to the control group. So that suggests that my hypothesis around restraint was actually promoted through the intervention. So the intervention worked, but I was really keen to understand what the experience was like for people because this had never been tried before. So it's really important to know how people actually found trying to prevent weight gain at Christmas. So I did a qualitative study, which was to explore people's thoughts, experiences and views around the idea of preventing weight gain at Christmas, how they found the intervention, suggestions for improvements, and possibly something around the mechanisms of action. So was it restraint that they were using or was it something else? So I used participants who'd been in our intervention group only because I wanted to know about the intervention. And I sampled people on their gender, BMI, weight change, and how well they stuck to the self-weighing. And I did semi-structured telephone interviews with them in the March after they'd participated. So some of the key findings I've picked out here, and quote stories are a really nice illustration. So people talked quite a lot around specific foods and how they'd avoided eating those foods. So this was in relation to the pace and the self-weighing. So there seemed to be something that happened around weighing themselves regularly and reflecting on the weight changes and reflecting that back to what they'd consumed the day before. And people did describe avoiding certain foods entirely. So the pace information seemed to resonate with people. So that sort of sticks in my mind about how far I'd have to walk off 5 roses. That's quite a typical example of what people would say. People described how they weighed themselves, so they set up a prompt or got into a habit of doing that, particularly in relation to daily weighing. And the reflection here, so people were reflecting on their weight changes and making changes to what they were consuming. So it's obvious where and when you've gone wrong. For example, the next day you think about what you shouldn't have eaten and drunk the day before. You can try and reduce it when it's gone up and try and identify what you've done to make it go up. And that was a fairly typical quote. Lots around restraining, so people choosing to reduce the intake of the food or avoid it entirely. And this was as opposed to increasing their physical activity levels as well. And this one was fairly typical as well. You know, it's like, hang on, have I got time to do 30 minutes brisk walk? No, I'll just leave the packet of crisps. So when I put all this data together, I came up with a new kind of logic model of how this worked. And this can be useful to be implemented into further work and further interventions. So I felt like the 2 key components were the self-weighing and the pace. The tips for weight management didn't really resonate with people so much. And I've identified that this process of reflections, of getting people to think about weight changes or what they've consumed, all in relation to their goal, was really, really important in making people eat less or drink less of something. So there's some conclusions. This brief intervention, consisting of those 3 intervention components, prevented weight gain during the Christmas period. Promoting restraint of intake is really important in the prevention of weight gain, but it's quite useful to think about how these results might help us. So kind of key tips for weight management or weight gain prevention are around measurements. So self-weighing is really valuable in weight gain prevention. Daily self-weighing can also be valuable, but I think what we found in my study was there wasn't much difference between people who'd weighed themselves daily versus people who'd weighed themselves just once during the whole period. So keeping an eye on your weight, doesn't really matter, the frequency seems to be really important in helping people to get control. But there are also other measurements it's important to know about, like your BMI and waist circumference, and these things can also be important for keeping people, keeping that awareness of where they're at. So some tips if people are going to daily weigh is to weigh at the same time of day, wearing similar amounts of clothing or no clothing. It's quite important to record weight and noting the trajectory, so not getting totally hung up on the changes from one day to the next, looking more of the weight trajectory, the journey of the weight. And creating a habit can be beneficial. So my work back this up to some extent. And there's some evidence to suggest that 66 days is the amount of time it takes to establish a habit. And I just wanted to say something around the adverse effects of daily weighing. So there is some people are concerned that there may be some harms from daily weighing. Currently, there's no evidence to support that at all. So there's no evidence of any adverse effects from daily weighing. Some other tips, so pace labels can be really useful, and thinking in terms of pace, and there are calculators that you can use online to calculate the pace value of certain foods or a number of calories. So, and it can help people contextualize what they're eating, you know, in the big picture of their dietary intake. So it can be quite useful. And talking to people about energy balance is also quite valuable. Social support is a really important determinant of success, and there's lots of evidence to back that up. So finding someone who can support you in your weight loss goals, or support people you're working with in their weight loss goals, making sure they've got at least one person to talk to. And setting goals is really important. So setting maybe a 5 or 10% goal and taking steps to reach that, and recording that journey is also quite valuable. So that's the end. I think I've gone over time, sorry about that, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Frances. Really good presentation. I'll just check whether there are any questions. Any questions? Haven't got any questions at the moment. I think we'll let Stuart start, and if there are any questions, then we can get back to them. Oh yeah, there's a question. It says, just a minute. Can you see it? For some reason, I'm not able to see it.
How do you consider the exercise level?
Yeah.
Do you mean, I'm not sure what question means, sorry. Is it around measuring the exercise level or the importance of the exercise level?
Would you have any thoughts around?
Confounder. So the question from Gary, we've got all the participants' characteristics in table 1 in the BMJ paper. So we did record all of that. So we've got lots of demographics available in the paper have a look at. So how many calories do we spend without exercising? So there's something called basal metabolic rate, which is slightly different from one person to another, but that's the number of calories that's required just to be at rest. And it varies from person to person, but for weight loss, it's recommended that women consume around 1,500 calories a day to reduce their weight by 1 to 2 pounds a week, and for men it's around 2,000 calories, so it's to reduce by 500 calories a day. So fasting, there is some evidence around fasting when it comes to weight loss and weight management. There's some really useful papers around that. It's just whether people fasting as an intermittent fasting as a dietary approach, there is some evidence to support that approach. It's just around the sustainability and whether people can achieve that in line with their daily lives. No, there were no results in terms of education level. There were no differences. There were no differences with participant characteristics in particular. I think that's all of the...
Somebody has asked, do we have access to slides? Yes, we can send over the slides at the end of the presentation. Yes. Yeah, there's one more question for you, Francis.
How do you evaluate confounding factors such as... So we did record, so participants had to complete a baseline questionnaire and a follow-up questionnaire, and we asked things about exercise level, about smoking status, lots and lots of different questions, and we looked at all of those different factors, and there weren't any significant differences across groups, across physical activity level, across smoking status. And again, all of that information is available in the tables in the paper, but the only significant differences we found were in relation to the cognitive restraint across the groups, which were reported, and the weight at follow-up. I'm trying to think, we measured lots of secondary outcomes as well, but we hardly saw any significant differences in anything else. So it suggests that it's the restraint that was really important. Does pace have any negative effects? I think at the moment it's around acceptability of pace. So it's around getting the message across in the best way. So I don't actually think pace should be applied to absolutely every single food tomorrow. I think it's important how you apply pace. I think it's important when there's a lack of awareness or when new or different foods are consumed. And it's important to present pace in context with other information as well. So some people aren't keen on pace because they feel that it sort of demonizes foods in a certain way, or it's demonizing exercise, it's making exercise look less appealing. But I think in terms of weight management in new foods that are consumed, it can be quite useful, and it is quite consumer friendly. So it is quite easy for people to pick up and understand it. It's just making sure that it's applied to the right sort of foods. I think that's quite important.
Yeah, thank you, Francis. Now, can I invite Stuart for his talk? Stuart.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you. Yeah, good to meet everybody. And yeah, that was a great presentation, Francis. Amazing that the average is 27 mince pies. Is that actually true? I mean, I thought I was bad, but 27 seems like a lot of mince pies to get through in one Christmas stint. But anyway, I'll try and have as many interesting facts for my presentation as well. So here goes. Okay. Are you seeing my screen okay? So I've got a very quick kind of introduction to Wisc, and then I'll just jump straight into demonstrations. But yeah, so we've been working with the Birmingham Public Health team, Lydia and Mel and the team there, and kind of very excited to launch a few weeks ago a kind of a collaboration to use Wisc across Birmingham to help people find, plan, shop, organize their recipe and food inspiration. We are a Birmingham tech company, which is pretty cool. We've been around for almost a decade now, and we set out originally to basically kind of work out how to connect inspiration and all of these millions of recipes that we all interact with in social media and across different platforms, and then kind of somehow getting them onto the table and cooking them. People still cook the same 4, 5, 6 meals or recipes week in, week out on repeat, and something between wanting to cook and finding great recipes and actually doing it seems to get in the way. And we think that finding the right recipe, getting the one recipe that's right rather than the 1,000 recipes that might be right, getting it onto a list, knowing what you have in your stock, in your cupboard or your pantry or your fridge, planning when you're going to cook it, and when you stand, or sorry, shopping it, speeding up the process of shopping, and then when you actually stand at your hob or your oven and think, what's for dinner tonight, actually knowing what it was you wanted to cook and having the ingredients there ready to go. And we think technology can help connect each one of those different steps and make it much easier to just cook more interesting food. And if you're looking to try and change behavior, just take some of the effort and the energy out of organizing yourself. We were acquired, as I said, 2 years ago by Samsung, and we now power about 800 million recipe interactions each month on the Wisc apps, which is Android and iOS, and also across Samsung's ecosystem. And as 5G starts to grow and there are more connected devices and more kind of availability of this technology in the home, we see actually the ability to connect everything together to help people organize, plan, shop is a really big and exciting opportunity. That's kind of the vision at the moment. And we launched our app last year, and we've grown really, really effectively. And we've now got a 4.8 star rating on the app stores. We've been recommended on Google Play's User Choice Awards, for example, the Webby Awards recently we were nominated for. And we had sort of Apple's This Week on Apps nomination as well. So we're starting to get really good user feedback. We're starting to get really good traction in the marketplace. And increasingly, as well as that process of inspiring, shopping, cooking, we're actually making Wisc a much more social food platform. So as well as just finding recipes, you can comment on recipes, or you can say, here's a picture when I tried to cook it, or I hated this recipe, I burnt it, it was disgusting. All that kind of social sharing, like give me ideas how to boil an egg, tell me how to cook rice really well. Kind of adding those social functions to make it more sticky and more useful to people on a day-to-day basis. So I guess I'm going to give you a quick demonstration now, but if you do want to download the Wisc app, you can find a page on wisc.com if you put it into your browser. It's completely free. You can find it here. You just click get the free app. It takes you to this page and you can find whichever device you're working on. So feel free to do that while I'm talking and ask any questions at the end. The more people using it in Birmingham, the more sticky it becomes, the more useful it becomes for everybody. So please download it, share it, use it, give us feedback as well, tell us what works and what doesn't. And just a really quick one, just to say, like the team in the Healthy Brum team in the Birmingham Council, despite COVID and all the other stuff that's been going on, we've worked really productively with these guys to actually onboard them onto Wisc to create some Healthy Brum communities to share recipes and content that are interesting and relevant in Birmingham. But it's really just starting, and the more engagement, the reason why I'm here is to kind of raise awareness of the project and to get more people excited by kind of homegrown technology and ways to kind of find and eat and enjoy healthier food. So I shall stop talking and give you a quick demonstration of the platform. So this is the web browser. I say it's on the web, it's on app, it's everywhere you want to, so my.wisc.com. But on the home page of the app, you have these things called communities, which are kind of social places that you can join and that are kind of tailored to your individual taste. So the more you interact with the platform, the more we kind of understand the relevant content, and the more we can sort of we can share more relevant recommendations with you. So if you just kind of go through here, you've got quick and simple, you've got communities worldwide. Lots of different kind of places. So on Healthy, you can click this. There's like 45,000 members on this group. And basically people all the time, 6 minutes ago, Eugen Kurilenko added a ham and cheese slider. I'm not sure how healthy that is, but looks pretty good. And people can basically go on here and add recipes and content all the time, and you can see it's quite a vibrant community, and it's got quite a lot of energy about it, and it's a great place to kind of find recommendations that are going to be tasty or something that you want to try. You can also search for any recipe. You can search for groups. If you search for Healthy Brum, for example, up here, it'll give you the 8 communities that Lydia and the guys have been spending their time creating as the kind of first starter for 10. So in diabetes friendly, you can find some recipes in there that should be diabetes friendly from the Diabetes UK. And here you've got some veggie burgers, and 3 days ago, Sherry added veggie burgers. So you can see they're already growing interest and engagement. So it's super easy as well. If you want to go ahead and create your own community, if there's like a local community group, you literally just go in, you create your community name, you add a quick photo, you tell a little bit about what it's about. You select a category to help with those recommendations. What sort of food is it about? Is it a diet? Is it family friendly? Is it gatherings? Kind of what's best describes your group. If you're shy and you don't want people to find it, you can make it private and just invite people to join. And you can also control who has permission to post content. So the most engaged communities, anybody can post and comment and add in content. But if you want to control it a little bit more and make it very, kind of you're a nutritionist, for example, and you want to tailor a meal plan for nutrition, you can just kind of tailor it so that it's you controlling the content on there. And you can link through to your website or your social channels as well. It literally takes 2 minutes to set these up, and it's ready to go. And once it's created, you can then add your own content and your own communities. So that's one thing to do. Go on there, download the app, create a community, share it with friends, share it with family, and start playing with it. The next thing actually is the recipes. The reason why this is super interesting is because each of the recipes are very easy to add. You can search in here for existing recipes, or basically go to anywhere on the internet and find any recipe and add it into here really quickly. And I'll show you how that works. But once you do actually add the recipe, in fact, I'll show you how it works first. So there's 3 different ways to add a recipe. You can scan a URL from a page. So if I go to, say, BBC Good Food, and I like the look of this chorizo mozzarella gnocchi bake, I can copy the URL here. I can go back to Wisc, and where am I? A recipe, and add the recipe with a recipe link. And just paste it in there. And when I press save, it'll pull all those ingredients into Wisc. This is now a Wisc recipe. It links back to BBC Good Food, and you can see all the different ingredients. You can scale servings. So if this is 6 servings, you can make it for 4 if you've got a smaller family, or make it for 2 if there's just the 2 of you, and it scales all of the ingredients. You can, if you don't like grams and you want to go back to imperial measurements, you can change it to pounds and ounces. You can also then see, and this is the snazzy bit, is where you can see a health score. So for every recipe in real time, we calculate kind of what are the good nutrients per 100 calories, what are the bad nutrients per 100 calories based on USDA or NHS, what's it called? Healthy plates, well, I can't remember the name of it, but the Eat Well plate, sorry. So that's basically calculated as a score out of 10 to make it super easy to understand. You can then look, if you want to, in a bit more detail at your macro micronutrients for that recipe. And if you're looking at managing blood sugar, then you can also get kind of a reading on what the glycemic index looks like for that recipe, and also the glycemic load. So it's a load of really useful data on every recipe. And it's, as I say, it's really quick and easy to save those and create them. And if you want to add your own tweaks, you can make it even healthier or even less healthier by adding butter or any other item and saving it. And then it'll just kind of calculate the new score in real time. So again, feel free to drop questions into the questions that will come to them at the end of the session. Okay, what was next? Yeah, the other ways of doing it as well is you can actually just create a recipe by creating the recipe. And if you have something that's, say, on Word, you can just copy and paste the items in really quickly here. So give it a title. If it's a source, you can add the source and link back to that recipe. You can add a photo and add it in there. You can copy a description into the text. You can copy your ingredients. these are all American ones, a bit of a strange choice, but hopefully this all works okay. You paste it in, and you can see again instantly it's just taking that text and turning it into much more meaningful ingredients. And then you've got your instructions, and again it just passes those instructions into a list. This is serves 4, and it takes 15 minutes to prep, say, and 50 minutes to cook it, and then you're ready to go. And again, as you've added that instant health score pops up again. Again, it tells you why the health score's there, and you've got all that instant data. So again, super powerful, whether you're wanting to create your own recipes or whether you're actually a nutritionist or a dietitian and you want to just have a quick way of creating meal plans, it's all in there. So that's your recipes page. On the next feature is meal planning. So again, lots of people don't think about just one recipe at a time. They want to think about a whole week of food, especially if you're doing a big weekly shop. So you can go to here and you can add any recipe that we've just created. So there's the vegan baked French toast sticks or the gnocchi that we added just now. So we can add those onto the recipe plan, and then you just click and drop them. I fancy that on a Wednesday. Cod and anchovy, let's put that onto a Friday. Well, actually, let's have fish chips and peas for a Friday. Let's do that instead. That can be a Saturday treat. And then you see you've got 5 days organized. Maybe I've got some time on Saturday, I'll bake a cake as well. And it's all ready to go. And then the neat bit, once you've got your meal plan, is you can share it, you can send it to people, you can invite people to it, or as a feature. It's a very versatile way of just taking a specific plan and saying, hey, this is what you should try cooking this week. And then you can add it to, you can save a recipe link, you can add a meal plan to the shopping list as well. So that then takes all of the ingredients that you need to cook each one of the recipes. 136, so it's quite a lot for this list. But it takes that and then turns it into a shopping list that you can take into store, or that you can actually shop online if you have a preferred online grocer. And as is always the way on a demonstration, it's going really slowly. And just I've upset it. I'm going to wait. There you go. Every other time it would work perfectly, but there you go. If I go to the shopping list here, let's go back to here. So here's the 136 items added to my shopping list. It just took a little bit of time. You can see that they're all added. And it's organized it now by ingredient type. So baking, bread and bakery, breakfast foods. So it helps you navigate your way through the store and just stops you bouncing from side to side when you're trying to find all the ingredients. And you can see here as well, olive oils in a few recipes. So it's combined olive oils here. And it shows you all the different recipes that used olive oil, and it's combined it into one ingredient. But the chances are you've actually got olive oil already in the cupboard, so you can take it off the list, and peanut butter oil, all those different things. And then when you're ready, you just click and it'll add it to your supermarket, and you can choose which your favorite supermarket is. Oh, what's happened there? You can choose which is your favorite supermarket. And it adds all those items to your shopping list at, say, Sainsbury's or another store that you want to choose. So it's pretty built out. Like, you can use it just to find recipes. You can use it just to organize your shopping list. That's what I use the most, actually, just to share the list with family members. But it's yeah, it's kind of that end-to-end piece, as I said. It's basically trying to join up this inspiration to a list, to planning, to shopping, to cooking, to eating. And it's available in Birmingham to download for free. So yeah, as I say, there's 3 ways that you can save a recipe. You can save a recipe URL, you can copy and paste it like I just showed you, but there's also a way, if you go to wisc.com scan, you can scan your favorite list. You can download a different app and it scans a printed list or family favorite recipes. You can pass it and then it just pulls it straight into your Wisc platform and saves kind of your favorite family recipes for anybody in the family to see, and also see how kind of healthy it is and how you can make it even more healthy. So yeah, that's the Wisc experience. But yeah, I'd love to answer any questions I can answer now.
Thank you, Stuart. It was really good. I really like Wisc App. I have been using it and it's really helpful. It helps me choose healthier meals for my family.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
So it was a very fast run through, so apologies if I skipped through lots of the different features in there. But,
yeah. Thank you. Let's have a look at the questions. People have already done.
Is the content available in English? There is actually, if you go in here, there are different languages. So first of all, you can go into the My.Wisc app and you can change the, you can translate it using Google Translate. So that's available for everybody. And there's also ways in here in your settings, and you can choose different languages like, where is it? Sorry, I haven't changed my languages for a while. So there's regions that you can set, or the language can choose from: English, German, Spanish, French, Italian, or Korean. But you can basically just use Google Translate in your browser to translate the app.
Okay.
Please see the link. Yes, there we go. There's a community. Thank you, Lydia. Downloaded. Thank you, Yankee. I hope you enjoy using it. It's free for anybody, basically. Anybody in the world can use Wisc for free. So yeah, please share it as widely as you can. Again, the more people that use it, the more people that add recipes, the more value everybody gets, and it also will benefit the Birmingham communities too, to have more users viewing them and sharing them. So yeah, thank you for that. Any other questions? My email is stuart@wisc.com. Happy to help or kind of jump onto a call if there's anything I can help you with, and any other ideas you have for how we can use it. But I should also say big thank you to Lydia and the team and everybody in Birmingham really for helping Wisc get to where we've got to, and for inviting me to present today.
Great. Thank you, Stuart. I don't think there are any more questions, so we can probably close our session today. Thank you, Francis. Thank you, Stuart. It was really good. Both of your presentations were really good. Thank you. And yeah, Francis, I'll send over your, a lot of people wanted your slides, so I'll send over your slides. Please send them to me, and then I'll pass over to the attendees. Thank you. Okay, we'll close the session now. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.